Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
I sat at the kitchen table, the last bite of my half-eaten dinner growing cold on the plate. My wife, Claire, stood by the sink, rinsing out a glass like she wasn't aware of the tension thickening between us. But I knew she was. We'd had arguments before, ones about the usual stuff, chores, responsibilities, emotional distance. But tonight, I could feel something different brewing beneath the surface, something final. "I just don't think it's fair," she said, placing the glass down a little too hard. "You always expect me to check in with you before I make decisions. It's suffocating." I blinked, caught off guard. "What decisions are we talking about, Claire?" She sighed dramatically, rubbing her temples as if my question itself was exhausting. "Everything. Plans with friends, how I spend my time, what I do with my life. It's like I always have to consider you first." I let out a dry chuckle, shaking my head. "Isn't that kind of what marriage is? Considering each other?" Claire rolled her eyes, folding her arms. "Maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want to live for myself for once." There it was. The shift I'd felt coming for weeks, maybe even months. I set my fork down carefully, trying to control the slow burn in my chest. "So what are you saying?" She hesitated, but then squared her shoulders. "I want freedom. I don't want to feel like I owe you my time or my decisions. I need space to be myself." The words hit me like a slap, but I forced myself to stay calm. I studied her for a long moment, taking in the way she stood, defiant, chin lifted, waiting for me to fight back. I didn't. Instead, I leaned back in my chair and exhaled. "Okay." Her brows knit together. "Okay. Yeah." I nodded, keeping my voice steady. "If that's what you want, then fine. You want freedom? You've got it." She blinked, like she hadn't expected me to agree so easily. "That's it. You're not going to argue." I shrugged. "What's the point? You've already made up your mind." For the first time that night, she looked uncertain. But she covered it up quickly, brushing her hair over her shoulder and grabbing her phone from the counter. "I'm going out with the girls tonight," she announced, a test in her voice. I didn't react. Didn't tell her to have fun. Didn't ask when she'd be home. She hesitated again, but eventually turned toward the door. "Don't wait up," she said, voice softer than before. I didn't respond. I just sat there, staring at the empty space where she had stood, feeling something inside me harden. She wanted freedom? Then I'd give it to her. But not in the way she expected. Claire got what she wanted. She started living like she was single again, late nights out with her friends, last-minute weekend trips, coming home at odd hours without explanation. And I let her. I didn't ask where she was going or when she'd be back. I didn't text her during the day to check in. I didn't remind her about bills, errands, or the dozens of small things I used to handle without her noticing. At first, she seemed to revel in it. She'd dress up for nights out, laughing on the phone with her friends while getting ready, not even acknowledging me as she walked past. I'd hear her heels clicking against the hardwood floor, the scent of her perfume lingering after she left. She was free. And yet, cracks started forming quicker than I expected. It was small at first, things only I would notice. One evening, she came home looking exhausted, dropping her purse onto the kitchen counter with a sigh. "God, I'm starving." I was sitting on the couch, flipping through channels, a half-eaten plate of takeout beside me. She glanced at the table, as if expecting dinner to be waiting for her like it always had been. But it wasn't. She hesitated, then opened the fridge. "Nothing." "Didn't you pick up groceries?" she asked, not looking at me. I didn't take my eyes off the TV. "Nope. I figured you'd handle it." Silence. I could feel her staring at me, waiting for me to cave, to apologize for not thinking ahead. But I didn't. Eventually, she grabbed her phone and ordered delivery. The first small inconvenience. Then came the bills. A week later, I heard her cursing under her breath from the kitchen. I walked in to find her staring at an overdue notice on her laptop. She looked up. "Why didn't you pay the internet bill?" I shrugged. "It's in your name. Thought you had it covered." Another pause, another uncertain glance. "You always take care of that stuff." I leaned against the counter, folding my arms. "Not anymore." Her lips parted slightly, like she was going to say something, maybe argue, maybe demand an explanation, but she shut her mouth and turned back to the screen. Another small inconvenience. A few more weeks passed, and I watched as Claire's freedom lost its shine. She started coming home earlier. Her nights out became fewer. The excitement in her eyes when she talked about her plans had dimmed. One Saturday, she stood in the doorway of the living room, watching me as I scrolled through my phone. "You don't ask me where I've been anymore," she said suddenly. I glanced up. "Nope. You don't care." I held her gaze, choosing my words carefully. I care about a lot of things. I'm just done fighting for someone who doesn't want to be fought for. Her expression faltered. That was the first time she had nothing to say. One night, I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of her moving around in the dark. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, shoulders hunched. I watched her for a moment before speaking. Something wrong. She tensed. No. Just can't sleep. Liar. She wasn't used to this distance, this version of me that wasn't chasing her, fixing things, making her life easier. She wanted freedom. And she got it. But now, she was alone in it. And for the first time, I think she was starting to regret it. Something inside me had shifted. I no longer saw my marriage as something worth saving. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was just detached. And that scared Claire more than anything. I started doing things I hadn't done in years. I reconnected with friends. Old college buddies, former coworkers, the people I had let slip away because I was too busy making our marriage my priority. I went to the gym, got back into shape, but new clothes that fit me better. One night, I made dinner for myself, steak, mashed potatoes, and roasted vegetables. A meal I used to cook for both of us. Claire came home as I was finishing up. She walked into the kitchen, sniffing the air, eyes flicking to my plate. "You didn't make anything for me?" she asked, half joking. I took a bite, chewing slowly before answering. "Didn't know if you'd be home." Her smile faltered. She sat down across from me, watching me eat. For the first time in weeks, she didn't pull out her phone. "Have you been busy lately?" she asked after a long silence. I shrugged. "Yeah, catching up with people, working on myself." Her fingers toyed with the edge of the napkin. "That's good. You seem different." I didn't answer. Just kept eating. Let her sit with the discomfort. It started innocently enough. I bumped into Natalie at a coffee shop, an old friend from years ago. She looked just the same, bright eyes, warm smile, always laughing. We talked. Caught up. She asked about Claire, and I gave a vague answer, not wanting to go into details. Over the next few weeks, we texted here and there. Nothing inappropriate. Nothing crossed the line. But I found myself looking forward to our conversations. She made me feel seen, respected, wanted. I hadn't felt that in years. One night, Claire saw my phone light up with a message from Natalie. I caught the way her jaw tensed, the way she lingered in the room as I picked up my phone. "You've been talking to someone?" she asked casually, too casually. I didn't lie. "Yeah, an old friend." She hesitated, then forced a laugh. "Oh, that's nice." But I saw it. The first flicker of panic. Claire started paying attention in ways she never had before. She'd sit next to me on the couch, subtly leaning in, brushing her hand against mine like it was an accident. She asked more questions. "Who have you been hanging out with? What have you been up to?" As if she was suddenly interested in my life again. One night, I was getting dressed to meet up with friends. A dark button-down, fitted jeans, clothes I never used to wear around the house. She stood in the bedroom doorway, arms crossed. "You look nice," she said. "Thanks. Where are you going?" "Out." She frowned slightly. "With who?" "Friends." A pause. She shifted her weight, looking unsure. "You never used to go out this much." I grabbed my keys and met her gaze. I never used to have a reason to. And with that, I walked out the door, leaving her standing there, alone. The next morning, I woke up to find Claire already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. She looked different, like something had finally hit her. "Hey," she said softly when I walked in. "Morning." I poured myself a cup and leaned against the counter. She hesitated, biting her lip. Then, quietly, she asked, "Are we okay?" I took a slow sip, meeting her gaze over the rim of my mug. "You tell me," I said. She swallowed hard, looking away. She didn't have an answer. Because for the first time, she was afraid. Afraid that she had pushed me too far. Afraid that I was actually moving on. Claire was unraveling. At first, she tried to act like nothing had changed. She kept going out, kept pretending she was living her independent life. But the energy was different now, forced. She wasn't glowing with excitement when she left. She wasn't carefree when she came home. Because she knew. She could feel it. I wasn't waiting for her anymore. It started with little things. She made breakfast for both of us one morning. Something she hadn't done in years. "Thought you might be hungry," she said, sliding a plate toward me. I glanced at the eggs and toast, then back at her. "Thanks," I said casually, as if it meant nothing. Because now, it did mean nothing. A few days later, she asked about my plans, but not in a passive way. She actually cared. "You're going out again tonight?" she asked, standing in the doorway as I laced up my shoes. Yeah. With who? Some friends. She hesitated. Are you meeting someone? I smirked at her. There it was. The real question. I didn't answer right away, just stood up and grabbed my keys. Why does it matter? She stared at me, speechless. I didn't wait for a reply. I walked past her, leaving her standing there, her own words from weeks ago echoing back at her. She wanted freedom, and now she was drowning in it. One night, I came home later than usual. The house was dark, except for the soft glow of the living room lamp. Claire was awake, sitting on the couch, knees tucked up, arms wrapped around herself. Waiting. The moment I walked in, she exhaled sharply, like she had been holding her breath. Hey, she said, her voice small. Hey, I replied, setting my keys down. Silence stretched between us. Finally, she whispered, Are you seeing someone? I studied her. The way she was gripping her own arms, the way her lips trembled ever so slightly. She was scared. And suddenly, I felt it, the power shift. For so long, I had been the one chasing her, begging for attention, craving her love. Now, she was the one desperate for answers. I let the silence linger, let her feel the weight of the uncertainty. Then, I said the words that sent fear flashing across her face. Would it matter? Her breath caught. Of course it matters. I tilted my head. You sure? You wanted freedom, Claire. You didn't want to feel tied down. You made that pretty clear. She flinched. For the first time, she had to face what she had done. She had pushed me away. And now? She wasn't sure if she could pull me back. A week passed, and Claire started reaching for me again. She'd brush her hand against mine, sit closer than usual, initiate small conversations. But I didn't react the way she wanted. I let her try. I let her feel the absence of what she had taken for granted. Until finally, she cracked. One evening, I was reading in bed when she climbed in beside me, sitting cross-legged, watching me. I ignored her. After a long moment, she whispered, I messed up. I didn't look up. She swallowed. I thought I wanted space. I thought I wanted freedom. But I don't like this. I don't like feeling like I lost you. I slowly closed my book and met her eyes. You didn't lose me, I said. You let me go. She sucked in a breath. Her eyes glistened, the first real emotion I had seen from her in months. I don't want to lose you, she whispered, voice breaking. I want us back. I want you back. I watched her carefully, measuring my next words. She had finally realized it. But now the question was, did I still want her? Claire sat in front of me, eyes wide, lips slightly parted, waiting, hoping for an answer. But I didn't give her one. Not yet. Because for the first time in years, I was the one in control. She reached for my hand, something she hadn't done in months, maybe even years, with genuine longing. I miss us, she whispered, her voice fragile. I watched her fingers hover over mine, hesitant, like she was afraid I'd pull away. I don't want to lose you, she repeated. I exhaled, steady and slow. Lose me? Claire, you let me go a long time ago. She winced, as if the words physically hurt. I know, she admitted. I was selfish. I thought I needed freedom, but what I really needed was to appreciate what I already had. Now she sees it. Now that I wasn't hers to control, to neglect, to assume would always be waiting in the background. But was it too late? I leaned back against the headboard, watching her carefully. So what exactly do you want now? She swallowed hard. I want to fix this. I want us to go back to the way we used to be. I let out a bitter chuckle. You think we can just undo everything? That I can just forget the months I spent feeling like I was begging for scraps of your attention? Her face crumpled. No, I don't expect that. I just want a chance to make things right. For the first time, I saw the fear in her eyes. Not just fear of losing our marriage, but fear of losing me. And I won't lie, there was a part of me that wanted to give in. To believe her. To take her back into my arms and pretend this was just a rough patch we could move past. But then I thought about how effortless it was for her to discard me when she thought she didn't need me. How easily she claimed she wanted freedom when she was certain I'd still be there, waiting. And I realized I wasn't that man anymore. I sat up, looking her dead in the eyes. You want to fix this? I asked. She nodded eagerly. Yes. More than anything. Why? I pressed. Because you miss me? Or because you're scared now that you've realized I can be happy without you? Her lips parted, but she hesitated. And in that moment, I knew. She didn't just miss me, she missed the security of me. She missed knowing that I was always there to take care of her, to center her, to fix things when they broke. She missed knowing that she could do whatever she wanted, and I'd still be waiting. But that wasn't love. That was convenience. I shook my head slowly. Claire. I'm done. Her breath hitched. What? I stood up, running a hand through my hair. I spent years making this marriage my priority, trying to make you feel loved, wanted, supported. And you tossed it aside the second it didn't feel exciting anymore. She scrambled to her feet, shaking her head furiously. No, I didn't. I was just confused. Claire. I cut her off, my voice calm but firm. You wanted to be free? Congratulations. You are. Tears welled up in her eyes. No, please. I sighed, feeling nothing but exhaustion. You only regret it because you thought I'd be miserable without you. But I'm not. She flinched, a single tear slipping down her cheek. I should have felt bad. But I didn't. Because the truth was, I had already moved on. And now, she had to do the same. She tried one last time. One last desperate attempt to undo what she had done. Please, she whispered, stepping closer. Just give me a chance to prove to you that I can be better. That I choose you. I exhaled, my chest tightening, but not with regret. With relief. Because I knew, deep down, that choosing her again would only mean losing myself. So I gave her the only answer I could. I already made my choice, Claire. And for once, it's not you. Her shoulders slumped. A quiet sob escaped her lips. But I didn't comfort her. I didn't save her from her regret. I grabbed my bag, walked past her, and for the first time in years, I left without looking back. And it felt damn good.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.